Well, Bernie Sanders is staking out a lonely position on a contested convention. Last night, he was the only one on the debate stage who said the candidate with the most delegates should win the nomination. That's a reversal of his position during his 2016 battle with Hillary Clinton. The prospect of a brokered convention has a lot of Democrats worried. A lot. A former Obama staffer says it would be the party's worst nightmare and told The Hill, if you want to see a complete bleep show, fill in the blank, tune in to the brokered convention, end quote. Power panel slides in now. Brian Brinberg, chair of the program in business and finance at the King's College in Manhattan. Leslie Marshall, syndicated radio host and Fox News contributor. Great to see you. I'm going to start with the Democrat, Brian. Sit tight. Leslie Marshall, a brokered convention. What do you say?
I have to agree with former Senator Harry Reid, who said it wouldn't be the end of the world. Not to say I would be thrilled about it, and definitely it would throw a wrench into things. I'm certainly hoping it doesn't go that way, but I have to be honest, I'm not going to Vegas and betting on that right now, Harris.
All right. Former Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid said this, quote, "We've had brokered conventions before, and we've always come up with good candidates. It's not the end of the world. It just slows down the process." Brian?
I think the world has changed a little bit since he was thinking about those conventions. There is no goodwill in the party right now, in the Democratic Party. You saw that on stage last night. Can you imagine if we get to the convention and you have someone like Sanders with a plurality of the delegates not getting the nomination? Can you imagine the fight on the floor? Can you imagine the threats? Can you imagine how quickly his supporters would pull themselves out of the 2020 election, protesting what they believe to be insiders running this election, not the people? The Democrats have positioned themselves as the party of the people. They want to abolish electoral college. They care about votes. If they don't respect the votes in this convention, big problem.
Well, and I thought that it was Democrats who had fashioned this idea of the superdelegate, Brian.
Well, look, their promise is that the superdelegates aren't supposed to be running the show now. The rules have changed. We're supposed to be clearing the way, making this more fair. Bernie Sanders learned in 2016 that is absolutely not the case. The reason he's flipped on his position is because he just doesn't trust the process, and he's going to lead with a message of count the votes of the people. Rhetorically, I think that's going to win for him.
All right. I don't know what reaction you had last night, Leslie, but Bernie Sanders is defending socialism, arguing the United States is in many ways already a socialist society. Every time I hear somebody say, Bernie Sanders is this or he's that, he's not a socialist, I'm going to cue that tape, Leslie.
Well, he is a democratic socialist. The problem, Harris, is that most Americans don't know and even don't care about the difference between a democratic socialist and a socialist. Now, Bernie, if he left out that word and just talked about programs which have become very favorable on both sides of the aisle, $15 an hour minimum wage, some kind of a government-sponsored health care plan, the list goes on, and stopped there, it would be okay. The problem is, this is, as the polls show, going to be a huge problem, and not just among Democrats, obviously, but among independent voters, swing state voters, and Republicans who aren't happy with what's happened to their party or don't favor supporting the president in 2020.
Real quickly, how do you just leave out the word socialist from a democratic socialist?
You don't. What I'm saying is he should have never said democratic socialist in the first place. You can outline the plans. Medicare and Social Security are socialistic programs.
I mean, that's the question. You can't.
He wants the label. He doesn't want the reality of socialism. You see that time and again. He likes to be called, but when you press him, he cannot define what it is.
You know who likes it?
He cannot decide how to pay for it.
President Trump, who shreds on this issue. Shreds. See you guys in a little bit. A new Emerson poll shows President Trump is edging out every Democrat candidate in head-to-head matchups, except for Senator Bernie Sanders. The survey finds Sanders is 2 points ahead of the president. The rest of the candidates fail to outperform the president, and that's a big shift from previous polls, which have all shown the top Democrats defeating the president. The ground is changing. This is huge. Crowds are once again expected at tonight's Trump rally in Colorado. Yesterday, thousands of supporters camped out for his counter-programming rally in Phoenix, Arizona. The president was looking to seize the narrative coming out of the big Democratic events like the Nevada debate. Power panel back now. Brian Brinberg and Leslie Marshall. Is this working for the president, Brian?
Well, I tell you, last night worked for the president. I agree with Mayor Bloomberg that the president won that debate because the Democrats are very, very effective and becoming more effective at hitting each other. And I think the problem they have is as this goes on, too many of them are going to stay in the race. The desperation level goes up. They have to spend more time hitting each other. Meantime, the president gets all of this great ammo to use as he's out rallying his base. He is in a very strong spot right now, and I don't see that changing.
No, all right. Now, Leslie, sometimes you'll punch back with, we don't know how big the crowds are. Actually, we do. Our brain room research. New Jersey, January 28th, venue capacity 7,400, total crowd 15,000. January 30th in Iowa, seating capacity 7,152, and they had thousands camped outside in the cold for tickets. Fast forward to Arizona last night, seating capacity 14,500, thousands also outside in an overflow area. You can't argue with the numbers.
I said, Harris, in 2016, when I saw the crowds for Donald Trump, I said to my fellow Democrats, I think we're in trouble, and they thought I was crazy. Also, if you look, Bernie Sanders had in 2016 and continues to have very large crowds. If those people show up to vote, that is essential, whether it's for Donald Trump, Bernie Sanders, or any of the other candidates. And I'm not surprised that the polls are narrowing. We see this, and certainly the incumbent has an advantage when you have a very full field, as we do on the Democratic side right now.
Why is Bernie Sanders on fire right now, Leslie?
Well, Bernie Sanders, it's not just a candidate they're supporting. It's a revolution.
Yeah, we know.
It's a level of change. With Bernie or bust is not just a bumper sticker. And we saw in 2016 how much his supporters love him, very much like Trump supporters love the president. 12% voted for Trump. A number of them stayed home. We're going to have to see how much they love Bernie over wanting Donald Trump to be a one-term president in November 2020.
You know, always, Leslie, you sound very even-handed about Bernie Sanders, but a lot in your party don't. Brian, is it a gift across the political aisle to have Bernie Sanders and some of just the backlash that we've seen on his supporters getting vehemently supportive of him in crowds? Yeah, nastiness on social media.
It's so odd to see the Democratic Party going after their leading candidate like this, and it is a gift to Republicans. Republicans in some way can step back and let Democrats make this process look unjust toward their leading candidate. That's going to fire up Sanders' base. It's also going to make them more likely to stay home if the convention turns out to look like an insider job and not a legitimately democratic process. Democrats are really putting themselves in a bind by choosing to go after their leading candidate so hard, and they don't seem like they're in any hurry to stop that.
Yeah. All right, you two. Leslie Marshall, Brian Brenberg, great to see you today.